Hello, this is Beverly from scrapandthread.blogspot.com. Today I am crafting from my stash, and I wanted to show you some ways to use your ink pads and maybe some products that you had from, well, in my case, from a long time ago. So I had started this yesterday with Altenew inks, and these are the marbled papers that I did with some various inks, and I ended up using just the regular ink pad smashed down onto my mat, and then I tried some variations, and I'll show you what I mean by that and what I did. But first, the paper that I used, I just got at Target. It's just photo paper, 4x6 glossy premium photo paper that you would run in the inkjet printer. And so that's what I tried, and it worked really well. I was very excited about it. It was very messy, so today I am going to wear my gloves because I scrubbed and scrubbed to get off the ink. And I'm not opposed to getting dirty, but I am a very messy scrapper, so I am going to wear gloves today. So what I ended up doing with some of the ones from yesterday was I made a little shaker card, and I used two of the different pieces, and I cut it down just to make, a nice little card. And I'll show you more specifically about how to go about making it with the gold or without any kind of metallic, depending on what your interest is. And we'll come back to this because it is glossy. The paper is very shiny. And I'll show you how to make it so that it's not quite as shiny as well. So let me show you, first of all, what I had done. The blue and the purple were all from the Northern Shore set of inks, and I originally did just the inks to begin with some water, and you'll see there's no metallic in here. And I'm sorry for the glare from the lights, but there's no metallic in this one. It was just with that. But then I went back in, and I have some old ink pads that I don't have reinkers for, and I don't even think Color Box is in business any longer. But this is an opaque pigment stamp pad, and it's gold color. And I don't have reinkers. I don't have any way to salvage this, so I didn't really care. It was drying out. I didn't really care what was going to happen with it. But so then I thought, well, I'll try this again, but let me try it with also putting in the pigment ink, and that was how I ended up with the blue one that I made the shaker card with. And so it has some really nice, let me see if I can get that on there, some nice little gold bits that you can see here and there. This is the scrap piece. I thought I could use that maybe for a sentiment backing or something for later on. And then I was excited because it was working. I thought, let's try something else. So then I did the Seashore family, which is Mountain Mist, Volcano Lake, Lagoon, and Emerald. And also then with the gold, the Color Box, the gold ink. And that's how I made these two with the different golds in there. And in person, they really are very beautiful. I really liked how that turned out. And then I thought, well, let's try things that are not in the same family. So I tried Fresh Lemon, Heartbeat, and Marigold, which come from Golden Sunset, Tea Party, and Pocketful of Sunshine. And that's how I made the yellow and the orange. And because it is glossy, you may not want that on everything, and for some things it'll be fine. And you may notice that this one is not quite as glossy as the other one, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I just wanted you to know about that part. So, and this one was not treated with anything, and it's still very, very glossy. So let's get started, and I'll show you how to do this. As I said, it is very simple. I am going to use some pinks. This happens to be Cotton Candy from the 4 Scoops. And all you do, and actually, you know what, I should probably wipe off my mat because it's probably dirty. This is just some plain alcohol in a old spray bottle. And I'm going to just clear that off. And I'm using the alcohol just to make sure that my mat is really clean and I don't have any other stuff stuck to it because, well, there could be anything on here. So I was working with a lot of different medias lately. So anyway, you just take the ink, smash it down. Once again, this is the Cotton Candy, and that's from the 4 Scoops family. And then this one is Puffy Heart, and this is from the Rose Petal family. And I'm going to kind of move that around in there. And really, there's no precision or rhyme or reason. It's just a thing. This is Razzleberry from the Cherry Blossom family. I'm going to move that one there. You can see that's a little bit darker. And then... And this is where this may get kind of risky because this may be a bad idea, but I'm going to do Firefly from the Green Valley family. I'm going to put that off to the side here and here. I love pink and green together. I just don't know if I like it together when it's all mixed together and you're watching this, you know, at the same time I'm making this, so I don't know if this one's going to work out because I haven't tried it out. Okay, looks like nothing except a big mess on my mat. I'm going to take just a water bottle and spray it. And I have this spatula that I got from Faber-Castell for probably gelatos or something. Anyway, I'm just going to kind of mix that back and forth a little bit to sort of give it this marbled effect. Now, I did not put any gold in yet, you'll notice, and that's because I want to show you what it looks like without that first, so you can get an idea what that looks like. And this is, you can see, it's messy. So here is that. Now the green is over here, and it did kind of create that muddy look, and that's okay. You know, sometimes you have to just kind of play and figure out what's going to work for you, what colors work together. You know, there's tons of information about using the color wheel for things, and obviously things that are from each other on the color wheel, if you mix them together, they make kind of a mud kind of an effect. And you know, mud can be pretty, but if that's not the thing that you're going for, then, you know, keep going. Just, you know, keep doing stuff. So anyway, as you can see, I needed to pat it down a few times onto my mat to get the colors, and that's a pretty intense coloration here. And you can see there is some green here that showed up, and that looks pretty cool. So now, though, what if you wanted to add gold to the mixture? Well, this is thick. This is really thick stuff. So, and you can see I'm not doing any favors to the ink pad. I'm probably not going to be able to use this for stamping again, but as I said, I'm okay with that. I am going to go back in and put a little bit more ink down because I did use up quite a bit of it. And the problem with gloves is it's harder to get your ink pad lids off, but I will persevere. There we go. All right, here's some green. Here's some more green over there. And yes, I got some pink on here, and I'll take care of that later by stamping it off a few times with a stamp. It'll be okay. These are crisp inks. This is their crisp ink, excuse me, and I'm going to try it with their new fresh dye inks also because I haven't tried it with that either. I'll just put a little bit of pink in there. Okay. Now, in the meantime, because I was talking so much, probably this dried out quite a bit because the pigment ink, even though it takes a long time to dry on your cardstock, it doesn't seem to take very long to dry on a craft mat or a glass mat in this case. So I will kind of scrape that up. And that's part of the reason why I'm using this like rubber spatula thingy, because it does help to kind of push that ink around a little bit. All right. So I'm going to put this one back in, but before I do that, I'm going to take a new piece of paper so you can get the full gold effect on this one and see what that looks like and see how much we might have to move this around. Yeah, so there's very little color on this one because I did not have the intense color that I had in the beginning. So if you know from the start that you want to do it with the gold, I would recommend going straight in that way, because this is like second generation stamping. This is second generation printmaking. So it's not terribly exciting. When it dries, it'll look nicer because of the gold part, but I'm going to set that there to dry. And now I can take this one in and try to add some of that gold to it. And we'll see. I had different success rates yesterday when I was playing with this as far as getting the gold to show up nicely. But I do think it's worth, if you want the gold, it's worth it to try again to put that on there. And once again, when this dries, you'll see more of that gold shimmer. Now I'm going to clean this up and I'll be right back. Okay, so I told you I was going to try the fresh dye ink, and this is called Silver Sage, and one of the advantages to these round ink pads is you don't have the problems when you're wearing gloves of trying to get the lid off, because they just screw on and off. This is Jade. Now, one of the problems with the black mat I'm seeing here is that it's really hard to see where exactly I have smashed that ink down. This one is Eucalyptus, so I start with the lightest colors first, just so that when I do, cross-contaminate my inks, because it's going to happen, that I'm not making a big mess on my ink pads, and it's easier to clean off the lighter ones from the darker ones than vice versa. This one was Forest Fern. So then this time, because I know I want the gold, I'm just going to skip the not doing it with the gold part. I am going to put the gold down to begin with, to show you that in the first place, and then adding the water. Now, I have not tried this with this kind of ink, and the formulation is different from what I understand. I don't know what the differences are between the crisp ink and the fresh dye ink. If it's going to make a difference on here, it may. It may not. We'll see. So I am doing this once again with the photo paper and laying it down there. I'm going to pick it up, put it down again, pick it up, put it down again, and then kind of rub it into that gold, and then kind of use that kind of as like a rag, kind of wiping it up there. And then it's kind of hard to see, and as it dries, the gold will show up a little bit more, but there's some kind of veining, which is pretty cool looking. So I'm going to leave that one there. Now, I was curious, and I told you I was working from my stash, so I am curious as to whether or not this will work. A million years ago, using glossy cardstock was kind of a big thing for people. It just comes as a regular 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. I cut this down into A4 card sizes, but I used to use this to do marbling with alcohol inks. And it worked really well, and you had to do it on glossy paper. So I thought, well, basically photo paper is glossy paper. I know it's treated with something. So I thought, let's try it and see what happens here. It may not work. It may be terrible. But now you'll know. Okay, so I did not have enough color here to make it have much of a difference. So what I'm going to do is I am going to get some more color and put that down. I am going to take the Forest Fern just because I'm not a huge fan of cross-contaminating too much, and I'll take the Jade, which is the second, so I'm using the darkest color and the second color in the family of 4. Let's see what happens. I'm going to mix that up a little, hopefully to cause it a little bit more of a marble effect. Now, the one thing I am noticing with this cardstock is that it's getting very soggy feeling, whereas the photo paper did not feel so soggy. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, we won't know how this worked out until they dry. right now it did take the color, but I'm not sure if it's going to hold on to that color, which is going to bring me to my next thing that I wanted to talk about, and that is if you don't have pigment ink, here's another way that you can mix in pigment. This is called Aqua Bronze, and this one is rich gold color. It comes as a powder. It's kind of pricey, so this is something that you don't use very much of, and as you can see, this powder goes kind of a long way, so you don't need to use very much. It does need to be mixed with water, and that's perfect because that's what we've got all over the mat. I'm going to put the lid on because I don't want to spill. I'm not going to get this wet because if I want to use it again, I don't want to stick my wet one into the container. And so now I am going to mix this with the water that's on my mat. And what I found out when I did this yesterday, and that was the examples that I had from here, and what I needed to do to solve the problem that I created for myself, was the gold is beautiful. It's actually a lot nicer, more intense than the gold from the pigment ink pad. But when it dried, the gold did not stay on the cardstock, on the photo paper, which completely, defeats the purpose of going through all of that, right? So what I ended up doing, I don't know if you can see that, but isn't that cool? All right, so I hope this turns out. I hope it works on the glossy paper because that gold is awesome. So what I had to do was I had to treat it with I had to seal it. And so I sealed it with acrylic spray. I went outside and I sprayed it. And this happens to be clear satin, so that took down some of the gloss on here. And it also changes the way it feels. But the good thing is that gold powder is now on here. It's not going anywhere. So if it turns out that you do have a pigment one with a pigment ink pad that you made, and you don't need to seal it. This is in here. It's not going anywhere. But if you don't want it to be quite as shiny, you can use the acrylic spray, the satin spray on there. That comes in a gloss also. So if you like the shiny look, and you use this gold Aqua Bronze powder, you could use the shiny sealer shiny spray, and that would work really well to seal that in as also. So now I have this delicious gold stuff on my desk, or my work surface here, and I have some old watercolor things that I was messing around with, and I'm going to see if this, once again, just kind of like a little bonus experiment here, I'm going to see whether or not this will take this gold Aqua Bronze on here, because it is a water-based product. And what I can see is I made a big mess. Don't love it. I'm going to spray some water on there, see if I can move that around a little bit. Maybe that will help it. This may just be a hot mess. It looks terrible. And there may not be any salvaging. So sometimes my frugality does not serve me well. But you don't know until you try. So I'm going to clean this up, and I'm going to show you another way to do this with one other product.
Okay, so as I was walking around my craft room, and I realized that I really do want to try to use things for my stash, I found some other things that I thought I might try. So I'm going to put down the Silver Sage Jade Eucalyptus Forest Fern again, and tell you about some of the other things that I have here that we can try together, so that in case you have this stuff in your stash, then you can give it a try also. If it works, maybe you'll have good results. Hopefully this works out for both of us. Anyway, so one of the things that I thought of was, and I did this yesterday and it didn't work, was to use the metallic watercolors from Altenew along with just the regular inks. And so in case you were curious about it, certainly by all means give it a try on your own if you'd like. I didn't have success with it. So what I was thinking was, because I had used, as I told you, the glossy paper technique in the past with alcohol inks. I remembered that I had some old alcohol inks, and one of the mixatives that was for them that I still have left over is copper. So there's a little ball in here. This thing is old. I took a little break here and spent several minutes shaking this up, so I'm hoping it's okay. So what I'm going to do first, though, I think, is put the water in there. And if you're familiar with how normal marbling works, it is usually you have a tub of water, and then the marbling solution is in there, and then you lay the paper, put the color in, and then you lay your paper on top, and then you kind of swoop it up, and then you got this gorgeous marbled paper. But and this is the lower cost, easier way to do it with less work. So this thing is all clogged up, so we're going to go to plan B, and I will work on that after I turn that off. We'll get back to that. So another thing I had was archival pigment ink refill. This one is pearlescent beige, so hopefully this one isn't dried out. And oops, yeah, there we go. So let's give this one a try and see what this turns out to be like. Now, I make no promises because I have no idea how any of these things, I have not tried these, as I said. So you are my witness as we work on this together. And one of the things that I have come to realize is that I have a lot of supplies that I don't really use, and if I don't start using them, they're never going to get used. I've moved a couple times. Things have been in storage, and a lot of my paints and things have dried out. So this is what not only did this produce quite a bit of color, it also ended up with texture. So I'm going to scrape this off and see what I think about that. I don't mind the texture, but I'm curious what would happen if you scrape it off. Will the color stay? So it's very pale, and I don't love it. So I am going to smash that back in there because I would rather have it dry with the texture than that more pastel-y look to it. So let me put that there. And as I told you before, I am a very frugal crafter. I like to get every single last little bit of every single little thing that I can rather than throw it away. So I am going to make basically a color of pearlescent with a tiny bit of green in there. Not the most attractive thing. But what I learned in quilting, kind of an adage that people have who are quilters, we say that it's, if you have ugly fabric, it's just you haven't cut it up small enough yet. So I'm going to clean up. We'll come back. I'll try to fix the copper thing. We'll be in business. Okay, so I put some more ink down. I got a straight pin for the copper mixative. I honestly don't remember what the texture or the consistency of that is. So it may be that this is not good anymore. I don't know. And then, of course, the mail carrier came with a package after I did that, so this might be a little dried out too. So anyway, let me see what we got. We got nothing. This is a mess. All right, so now that doesn't mean that the copper mixative won't work. What it means is my copper mixative doesn't work. I'm guessing it doesn't work. But I don't know because, as I said, mine's old. So, is this something I could use in my junk journal or something if I was really desperate for paper? Sure. I'm not desperate for paper. I have a lot. This will probably go in the trash. So let me wipe up. I have two more things to try. Okay, so I put those same ink colors down, and then I got some Gina K Glitz Glitter Gel, which I found out also had kind of dried out. So I know this is not exactly marbling. This is more like glittering, but I was curious as to how that would work out. Now, probably if your Glitz gel had not dried out like mine had, you would end up with a much better, different result. I put a lot of water in here, and so this is kind of a big watery, glittery, blobby kind of a thing going on now, instead of a colorful marbled effect. Still interesting, not exactly what I was going for. One more to show you. I thought it might be fun to try Gina K Designs inks. So I tried, what's on my mat is the premium dye ink in soft stone, I think that is. And this is Tangerine Twist, which is the premium dye ink. This is the an amalgam ink, and this one is called Barely There. So we'll see how that turns out. So what I'm going to do first is just do the water thing. I don't know if you can see that, but the gray started to show up once the water got added to that. So let's try that and see what happens, and then we'll see if we want to add something to that or not. So this is the glossy cardstock, by the way, that I am using here. So not terribly exciting, really, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm going to try adding some glitter glaze, which is from Brutus Monroe, and see if that does anything interesting. I mean, obviously it'll make it glittery, right? But will it do anything that makes us think it was worth making this mess? That's kind of my thing. You know, it's like when you eat something, is it worth your calories? For me, it's also, is it worth my mess? So, yeah, just made kind of a glittery piece of paper that's not, you know, like glitter cardstock, just kind of a nice little background glitter. I could use that. All right, cleaning up. We'll be back. Okay, so I'm back to using the Seashore colors. That's Mountain Mist, Volcano Lake, Lagoon, and Emerald. And I am going to try something that once again, I have no idea if it's going to work, but I want to try using some gilding flakes. As I was going around in my craft room looking for sparkly things to try to make this marble thing see how it would work, I found that, and I thought, you know, let's give it a try. However, you need adhesive to make that work. At least that's what I've found in the past. So my thought was I could do this with this marbling thing and then use embossing ink re-inker. This happens to be Distress embossing ink, which I'll be honest with you, I never loved the ink pad once I got it, so I don't use it. So now I have this bottle of re-inker that if I don't find another use for, I'm not going to use it. So anyway, so I thought maybe this would work because the embossing ink is sort of sticky, right? That's the idea behind it, because then you put embossing powder on it. So maybe this will work. So here's my glossy cardstock. Not really great color mixing there. Don't know why, if that is because of the ink, the embossing ink, or the maybe the embossing ink doesn't play nicely with the dye ink. I don't really know. All right, I'm gonna put this little rag here so I can. So these, if you never worked with these gilding flakes before, I don't even know if they make them anymore. But if you've never worked with them before, they get everywhere. So like here's one that kind of escaped, and I couldn't get it back in the jar from a long time ago. And so that you will see this container is like full, and it's because it's more messy than I like. You know, you sneeze, you breathe, your cat in the other room breathes, it causes it to go everywhere. So let's see what happens here. So I'm going to kind of mush that down, pick some up, mush it down, pick it up, mush it down. So the proof will be whether or not, yeah, so the color is pretty behind it. Is it marbled? No. But the proof will be whether or not this actually stays stuck. So the glossy part of the whole thing is gone now. As far as the ink is concerned, the only sparkly bits are this gold stuff, which I'm telling you, it's everywhere now. So let's see how it dries. Okay, so things have dried off. I think I said before that if you cut something small enough, then it becomes more attractive. So I think this might have been the one that I said I was going to throw away. I don't remember. But it actually, once I cut it out with a die cut that had the little stitching things on it, it looked a little better. Or maybe it could have been this one that I was going to throw away. But anyway, so that could go on there. That could, even if it was popped up on here, that could maybe look interesting. Kind of a monochromatic kind of a thing going on. Or on top of the other dark green, if you want to be, you know, don't like that one. So, you know, you just kind of have to play around and see what works for you. Certain color combinations are not very appealing to me, but you can, you know, try and see what you can come up with. This one's also more of a monochromatic kind of a thing. And if it's popped up, it looks better, I think. So, and then the one with the purple glitter glitz, the Gina K glitter glitz, I cut it into a die cut. That looks okay. It's probably not my favorite. Let's see, what else can we do? Maybe on the orange and purple are complementary. That looks kind of cool. We'll put it on the gold. And remember, my test was whether or not this was going to come off. It does come off if you rub it on the part that is sticking up, because there's some like little bits that are sticking up. But if you use this as a background, it would be totally fine. So that could be interesting. This one was one I had to spray with the acrylic fixative because the gold was wiping off, and the paint, apparently I didn't put it away correctly last time, so it had a big glob, and it spit out this blob on it. So I would use that as a background, and actually I like that one. So anyway, this has kind of been a fun experiment for me. I hope that it was helpful to you. I am planning on trying to pull out more things from my stash and either use them up, or if they're no longer usable, then get rid of them. But thanks for coming and joining on this journey with me. I appreciate it. Hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.